Alright, so what do Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, and Leatherface all have in common? They're not exactly the best conversationalists in the world. And because of that, they probably shouldn't be on screen for the entire duration of their movies. So does In a Violent Nature, which puts its silent killer front and center, still offer up an effective slasher experience? Let's talk about it. What's up, guys? I'm Sully, and today we're talking about the brand new experimental and artsy take on the slasher genre, In a Violent Nature. All you need to know about this one is that the story goes like this. When a locket is removed from a collapsed fire tower in the woods that entombs the rotting corpse of Johnny, a vengeful spirit spurred on by a horrific 60-year-old crime, his body is resurrected and becomes hell-bent on retrieving it. As a big slasher fan, this movie has had my attention ever since I first heard about it. I mean, come on, a horror film that completely takes the perspective of the unstoppable killer? Where do I sign up? And even though that concept sounds fresh and unique by itself, half the reason I wanted to see this movie was to figure out if they could really pull that off. Because let's face it, our most famous killers usually don't say a word and aren't shown on screen all that often to make sure they can keep up the suspense and that they don't overstay their welcome. Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, and all the other masked madmen we love to see rid the world of annoying teenagers, they all adhere to this formula. So throwing the rules aside and seeing if it still works is definitely an interesting concept. Well, critics have been using terms like inventive, groundbreaking, and one of a kind when talking about this film, but after seeing it for myself, I have to say that I am pretty much split right down the middle on it. The kills are gnarly, and they hit the nail on the head with the ambiance, but they didn't fully commit to the tone they were going for, and that really derails what should have been a subversive and refreshing slasher film experience. Now, when I say they kind of messed up on the execution side of things, what I mean by that is they, in more ways than one, present the expectation that the entire film will be from the perspective of the killer as he's walking around turning young adults into human plates of spaghetti. And it pretty much turns out that they only do that when it's most convenient for them. There are still scenes fleshing out the annoying characters, there are still scenes with pointless monologues, and the worst offense of all, in my opinion, there are still scenes that don't even involve the killer. It was almost like somewhere along the way there was a test screening and people came out of it saying the movie was too artsy and different than your usual run-of-the-mill cookie-cutter slasher, so they abandoned their ambition a bit and tossed in some sequences to make it more conventional for casual audiences. To put it plainly, they kind of wimped out. And that's the exact opposite of what I want to be saying about a movie that people are kind of hailing as the first of its kind and is out there blazing a trail. If this film was 90 minutes of just pure POV over the killer's shoulder as he walks around the woods doing some much needed population control, sure, maybe it would end up being even less accessible for casual audiences, but it would have ended up being much more immersive and they actually would have made good on what they promised us from the start. I will say though, the technical aspects at play here are probably the best part of the movie. The sound design and the practical effects that are constantly being utilized during all of the kill sequences pretty much give you everything you could possibly ask for out of a gory slasher movie. There are a few brutal deaths in here that are some of the best I've seen out of the genre in the past couple of years, and one that instantly makes the case to be inducted into the Hall of Fame right then and there. And trust me, you'll know it when you see it. I just feel like you can't put a price on vibes, and this film really feels like it was ripped right out of a time capsule from the 1970s in that regard. When it's at its best, the movie really feels like you're playing the Friday the 13th video game. The camera is set up 10 feet behind the killer as he's lumbering around the forest, slowly making his way to his next victim that disturbed his slumber, and those long and patient sequences are definite proof of concept in my book. I just wish they actually stuck to their original plan the entire way through. Because man, that on top of the conclusion they decided to go with, they really ended up shooting themselves in the foot here. People don't remember how you start, it's all about how you finish. And I'm not a filmmaker, but I'd say it's probably a good idea not to end your movie on a note that's gonna piss people off and have them leaving the theater wondering why they spent money to see it in the first place. We want carnage, and all they ended up killing was their own movie's momentum. Damn, how deep was that? Overall, guys, I have to applaud the team behind In a Violent Nature for setting out to make a movie that fully deconstructs the slasher film, but at the end of the day, I think it missed the mark by a decent margin. It felt like the film couldn't decide what it wanted to be. Are we getting an artsy take on a genre that's committed to showing a unique perspective, or are we getting a more traditional slasher that just so happens to show the villain more than usual? There are some great kills in here, and the ambiance is top-notch, but what a frustrating experience. In a Violent Nature gets a Sully score of 2.5 stars. So that's my review for the latest slasher film. What do you think is the best horror movie that's come out in 2024? I'm probably gonna have to say Abigail, but let me know in the comments below what you think. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one.